Da-da! Hello, oh my god, hello, I love you, I miss you so much. Okay. Anybody that watches this video or joins in on the stream. Hey, so I hope people are having a good day. I am having a good day. I fixed up the page that we did yesterday during the stream, posted that, and but I got some appointments this afternoon, so I thought I'd come and hang out this morning. And because I'm at a position right now where I am doing an awful lot of bookkeeping and an awful lot of computer, business stuff, I need a break. Hi April, good morning, how you doing? So because I need a break, we're gonna sketch, we're gonna draw, we're gonna have fun. So yesterday's page, so here's the scan of it, boink, and that's how I drew it in the sketchbook, and I'm happy with how it went. Like it could have been a little cleaner, could have been a little nicer. How you doing, Linda? Welcome aboard. What do you do? Oh, there you go. Thank you. So I went and tidied it up a little bit and did some of the things that I talked about, shifting to one panel, putting nicer little borders on it. And the only other thing I did was add the blue tone, the yellow and the brown, in order to identifiably draw the focus to the elements that I wanted it drawn to. So happy. So I'm pretty pleased with how this came together, and it's a lot of fun to do that, to just scribble out a page like that occasionally. I've got a sketchbook here in front of me where, clearly I'm already doodling all kinds of nonsense as well, as I usually do. And just a productive time. And productivity is, okay, I want to talk about productivity for a second. What your productivity and the person beside you's productivity is not going to be the same thing. And whether or not you're constantly pushing yourself to produce whatever you're constantly pushing yourself to produce, it's not, sorry for the shaky, it's not going to be the same as the next person. It's just not. You're going to do whatever you're going to do in whatever time it takes you to do it, and you're going to grow and develop in whatever level you're going to grow and develop. Don't worry about the next person. And I draw furiously, like a lunatic. But I just draw fast, and it's just how I work is not the same as how the next person works. There's people that draw much faster than me. There's people that draw absolutely wonderful finished images without missing a beat, without missing a line, and there's a lot to be said for that. Like last week I drew a page with my left hand. There are people out there that can draw simultaneously with both hands as they're working on a composition. There's all kinds of business. It's never going to be the same. One person's never going to be the same as next. That's all I'm saying. And I did the left hand thing from necessity because my right hand is still healing from hurting my wrist last week. And, I wanted to keep doing and hanging out, so that's what I did. But my point is that don't worry about what the next person's doing and don't compare yourself. You do your thing. So there's the page in its original form in the book. I seldom draw pages in sketchbooks like this. I tend to draw them on a separate piece of paper, cardstock generally, and try to work them as a finished item, right? Finished object. Objet d'art. Anyways, so occasionally it's fun to just scribble something out, just get an idea out onto paper, and so that's, aside from all of this madness, you'll see, it's the only other two I've ever done in this book, you'll see ideas. It's the same kind of thing, it's scribbling it out textually. If you're not entirely prepared to scribble it out, visually. So idea generation and development happens in all kinds of different ways. And it's just a matter of what works for us, you know, and how we go about doing that. So allow yourself to explore that, and allow yourself to work on. My world went black. Is it me? I'm not sure. April. I hopefully it wasn't the stream, but it says excellent connection. I got nothing else on but this, so ideally it's a working. Let me just make sure I've got nothing. Yeah, just making sure I got nothing else open. Yeah, don't even have WordPerfect open, so we should be okay. And if not, it's the interweb gods. So one of the things that I do is I have, and this is where I wanted to talk about learning new things and materials like mark making tools or supplies, right? One of the random things that I do is I consistently have trays in my studio that are just full of whatever. And in being full of whatever, it gives me some options on what I'm going to doodle with, what I'm going to take a crack at with. And so because of that, I don't have to necessarily worry about being hung up on one thing. If I feel like drawing with a fountain pen today, I'm good to go. If I've got some, regular color erase pencils, I got some of those. Here's a jelly roll brown. Here's a very inky traditional style brush, but in a pen form. Some Tombos. There's some ballpoints. Another fountain pen. Here's a micro type pen, right? Microns and things like that. And pencil, traditional pencil. These are some water-based color markers, and and then there's some Faber-Castells here, some various colored Fudenosuke pens. Once I found out there were different colors of that, it made me very happy. And in addition to that, there's this pile of stuff that's been pulled out for whatever reason. There's some different colored pens. There's some white Sharpies, white Poscas, red Sharpie, more Fudenosuke, more colored ballpoints. By having something, I'm glad you're back. Thank you for coming back. By having something nearby that has a smattering of things that you can work from, it allows your juices to be ready to rock, right? With some mark making tools. Now, it's not always easy when you're on the run. It's not, and if you're doing digital, you've got to have a tablet and whatnot. I mean, I've got this little jar that has additional stuff in it, but stuff that's the same as what we're talking about here, just more. And the reason that I'll do these things is that I just want to have the opportunity to play with some things. Now, I've got brushes as well. I've got big primer pencils. I've talked about these before, the big flat pencils for construction. I've got some ink jars. I've got some ballpoint. I'm sorry, not ballpoint. Some masking tape. I've got some medium, some gesso around. There's some of those ink jars. And so having all of this stuff, just a little bit of it near me on the desk. Now, I've got whole sections in the rest of the studio that have all kinds of pens, all kinds of this in different drawers. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the immediacy of having our supplies nearby. And if you can allow yourself that, if you have a little bit of a space, and for the longest time, I had a kitchen table that I could set stuff up on. And that was pretty much it. I was little kids in the house, and you work with the space that you have, and sometimes the space that we live in doesn't afford us much opportunity for spreading out and doing whatever it is that we want to pursue. But you can organize yourself in such a way to immediately jump into that headspace. You know, you can organize yourself in such a way as to just at a moment's notice sit down and go after whatever it is that you've got to get out of here down onto some kind of surface. And if it's a drawing tablet, great. If it's a sketchbook, great. If it's, you know, a clipboard full of paper, I got those too, you know. But just find a way to enable yourself for that comfort. Now, I'm not suggesting you go out and procure whatever you think you might need, or whatever bells and whistles. Oh, well, I should have those things. I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting look around you and maybe see the things that, you know, at different times you feel so inclined to just grab one of those and, you know, and gather some of those up, have them in a spot. If it's a little pocket, you've got those canvas fold-out pen paintbrush things. If it's one of those pocket rolls, whatever it is, but find yourself some opportunity to have some things gathered and to just immediately start working. And you know, if it's a random tray from when you you ordered a ready-made shawarma kit from the grocery store, you brought that home, and then after it was, you guys had that for a nice lovely lunch, you washed it and cleaned it up, and now you use the lid of it as a tray. So they fit really well on the shelves, by the way, and because they're so long, I can put 2 tiers of organized pens or Poscas or whatever it is, slide them into these shelves that I have in an upright cabinet. So I've got 8 of these now, and it leaves me far more organized than I've been before. Another thing to do is to allow yourself that growth that I think people deny themselves a lot. And what I mean by that is, if I can't draw lampposts, you know, whatever random idea, or I can't draw hands, or I'm having a difficulty in drawing X, Y, Z. Allow yourself to make lots of mistakes on a piece of paper, because after a time of making those mistakes on a piece of paper, your hand drawing ability, or whatever it is going to start to follow through. It's going to start to become something that makes you a little more comfortable with how you do it. Your hand's going to be perfect after, I've tried it 5 times. I've drawn 5 hands and they still stink. If anything, repetition, practice, we get better at things. Look up if there's things, how to draw hands, and you see a little paper, a little example. Try to replicate, that to the best of your abilities. But while you're doing so, rather than just trying to replicate the drawings, try to understand the mechanics of what they're talking about. And another way you can go about doing that and allowing yourself that creative growth to be receptive to potentialities and opportunities. Like yesterday's suggestion was a big one. It was a giant man playing with his Hot Wheels and ducks in the bathroom. He flooded everything and lost his keys. That's a rather elaborate suggestion. There's a lot of little elements within that. I gotta draw a bathroom. I gotta draw a person in a bathtub, or a person in said bathroom playing with Hot Wheels and ducks. I gotta have it flooded. I gotta have keys. I gotta have, all kinds of these different story elements interlaced. And it just becomes a case of, well, I don't know how to draw this, or I don't know how to draw that, or I don't. Some people will do that to themselves. And other times sometimes it helps people to close their eyes and try to think of keys. You're not necessarily going to magic eyes and visualize keys inside of your head. It doesn't work that way for everybody. I don't think it works that way for me. But I actually find sometimes, what is a chair? And I'll close my eyes and go, okay, I think I got a chair. And I'll start trying to draw a chair. I don't know that I necessarily saw this, visualized chair inside my head, but for some reason it just sort of actualizes that part of our brain that goes, what does a chair look like? And the brain goes, I think it's this. You draw a tuba. Or, well, ideally you draw a chair. But, you know, allow yourself that. Or if you have to, look at an image of a chair, right? And those things just help us grow creatively. So drawing a bathtub, close my eyes, what's a toilet look like? It's a random thing to do, but it allows us the possibility of taking on a, you know, in this case a suggestion, or taking on an idea that might be outside of our comfort zone. It might be, you know. There's all kinds of different things that we can learn creatively that we might not immediately consider as a possibility. Yesterday, I saw somebody do this. I'm going to show you something crazy. It's just going to take a second, I think, and I hope I have the right materials to do it. But I saw somebody in a drawing, okay, he did two things. It was a blue line printout of an existing drawing that he'd had, and he did two things. One is that he brushed out part of the area to get this little texture, and I want to zoom in on this because this is crazy to me, because this guy's old brain never thought about it. Okay, so you can see this little flicking of the ink of the value, and this is from, I'm sorry I can't remember the name of the pen, but it's a lovely $5 Canadian, it's like a nickel American brush pen that you can find at Michael's, or in the States, I guess it'd be Hobby Lobby, I'm not sure, but some sort of art store. It's not a very expensive pen. That's all, but it has a really good function for getting real liquid ink out and onto a surface. A lot of these water pens that you see, they kind of stink, or they're more like glorified marker pens. This guy's neat. So the second thing he did was this, and this is the thing that I really didn't quite think about, is that he took a black pencil crayon and he made this really, and using said black pencil crayon, he did this really interesting shading technique at the side where he just allowed a really light application into this area. So the idea was, in this particular image, he's diffusing the value, and so as he went about this, and then he kept moving towards the edge and moving towards the edge, and I thought, that's keen as a jelly bean, because in this composition now, he's got all these different tones and textures. It doesn't seem like a lot, but just, you know, you think you got an ink and image, and you watch an inker pull out a pencil crayon, and you go, you know, I guess it's less about the term inking, and it's more about, you know, you want to do a black line art representation of whatever the image is. So, you know, drawing X, Y, Z things and so on and so forth, I like to still learn things. You know, I like to still learn and consider applications to stuff. We're always in a state of growth. You know, we're not just growing older. We're growing in our experiences and stuff, right? I like to think so. But we have to be receptive to that. We have to allow ourselves to approach these things, these new things, and try them out. It seems such a simple thing, and yet there's this really neat texture here that when you're inking, a lot of people try to stay away from this sort of dry brush part at the end. We want clean, crisp inks, right? And sometimes applying heavy black is a problem for people like this, because they think, well, it makes depending on that black ink you use and on the paper it's on, it makes that area shiny, and it doesn't, you know, I want to say replicate properly, but I think I mean you can't photocopy it or scan it correctly is what I'm thinking. And then an application of pencil crayon there. It seems so basic, and yet mind-blowing at the moment, right? It's there's things like, the other thing that a lot of times we don't consider is taking another tool like a Posca pen and applying it over the ink. We only think about, maybe leaving that space void or whatever else, but you can take a paint or another ink and go over top existing dark areas, which is good for fixing mistakes, but it's also maybe just another way for you to build up that drawing and build up the depth in those lines in there. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about having all kinds of fiddly tools nearby. So you come across something and you go, oh, if you got a pencil case is good. There's just so many different ways that we can approach stuff. Well, here we go for schlocky promotion. So the new book this is just a proof, that's why it says what it says. But the new book's out, and one of the things that I tried to do in the new book is to represent a bunch of the different ways that I approach storytelling, like this is just a regular pencil and black, I think it's a pen. Pencil and pen, pencil crayon, there's some acrylic in this one. This is a traditional pencil, color erase pencil drawing that's colored digitally. I'm trying in the new book to showcase all the different approaches that we can try, and whether they're successful or not, it's allowing the potential to come through. Like this is drawn in markers, and that's just a heavy black, ink background. And yet, so it's very different from many other things that I'll do, because I try to have scenes and information, but it works in the context of this because of what I'm trying with the text. It's just experimenting. That's what it is. It's just experimenting. And then, just who knows what will happen. This is green ink. This just random, This is drawn in a green color erase pencil, but it's made to look like it's a regular gray graphite pencil, Ballpoint pen drawing here, Hercules, and just fun. Just fun in the sun, folks. And of course, watercolor and mixed media. The point is that trying all these different tools and trying to learn all these different things, who knows where it can take us? We might find something, some point of exploration that we really didn't have before, and we really didn't consider before. I just like that people will reach out and approach things in different manners, and this is why I showcase some of the books that I do, because it might open up an opportunity for somebody in their head that didn't consider, working like that. Didn't consider, like here, Igor Courtney. Let me see. Igor Courtney is a guy. This is Igor Courtney's work. Now, Igor, maybe, if it is, I apologize, but his style of drawing is, there's just this round, organic form. It just feels like. It feels like there's all of this shape language in the people and their faces. This is about a number of people that are mortal, that are going through time using magic to influence the world. And it connects to all kinds of historical situations and all kinds of the belief systems. So anyhow, it's just his style of art. There's a similarity in a lot of the faces, probably looking like Igor, really, because a lot of artists, we tend to draw ourselves into people. But the style of art that he does is, it has this nice sketchy dynamic to it, I think is the easiest way to say it. There's a sort of, it's clean, beautiful art, but it has this sketchy energy that he holds on to. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do. You know, we tend to work things in such a way in our compositions that in order to get it to look a little more refined, a little more finished, we can pull the energy right out of it. Oftentimes you'll have a person's sketch work, a person's pencil work on a project, and if somebody else inks over top of that, they can either kill it or just, you know, there's three things they can do. They can kill it, fill it, or fulfill it. You know, this is what an inker told me. Killing it means they do a terrible job inking it. They make mistakes and adjust perspectives and think they're helping and making worse, right? And then there's fill it means they're ostensibly tracing and filling in the black areas. They're just sort of fulfilling what the lines are telling them to do. And then fulfill it would be an instance where they add heightened effect to it. You know, so that maybe the pencils, the energy in the pencils that were down there, not only do they keep that energy, they transfer that energy over into the ink process, but they build on it. You know, they'll do a really nice interpretation of the lines in the foreground, and in those lines in the background, they'll diffuse the value, maybe even switch the value, the color of the line art to something else that pushes it back. And you know, so good inkers are good inkers, and there's something to be said for them. A lot of people dismiss inkers, but anyhow, you know, we can learn all kinds of different things. So he has a really different sort of sketchy, energetic line, but there's a guy that can clearly draw whatever he draws, you know, and that's a hard thing to do. Like, that's a hard thing to hold on to. So one of the things I'll do with the sketchbook is it's not just drawing in ballpoint pen. There's different colors of pen that I'll use. There is pencil. It's really washed out because it's the light green there. I'll use that. I'll use the fountain pens as or graphite, whatever's in front of me. This is some of these. This is one of these that I do these block colors with, and because this inexpensive, I think it's a dollar store pen or maybe Walmart, I'm not sure. It's got your fountain tip or your typical marker tip, and it's got a chisel tip, a nice big thick one. And so that lets you play with different ideas. Having a few different random colors lets you shake up your page. You know, you can draw on top of things that you've already drawn. I tend to do that a lot. These are sketchbooks. These aren't finished, you know, as I said before, objet d'art. These are just sketchbooks. This is, the whole purpose of these is for you to make lots of mistakes and for you to learn and to study and to random shapes that you might see something else in. Like, I don't know what that is, but you know, I might see something in that if I flip through this at a later date. There's a chain link fence and a hook. Don't know what's beside it. That's a rock. You know, this is, I think, an alleyway. Trying to think about ways to diffuse the alley. You can come back in through your drawings that you've done with like a marker, like a water-based marker like this, and start to explore some of the images that you've drawn. Like in this case, like let's take this dude, okay? So I'm doing these drawings to try to figure out shadows and contrasting light. But if I come in with this, and I can explore it just a little bit more by adding this other value and just giving a little more dimension and shape to it, this allows me to learn, you know, a little bit more from this sketching that I might not have considered before. So now that we've got the color applied to it, we can see just a sort of third dimension to it. Does it have any deep resonance or deep meaning to it? No, but we're playing. April says, do you have a favorite brand of sketchbook? Nope, I don't. I have multiple sketchbooks right now. I have this one. I have this one is like a moleskin cover. This is my friend Artie gave me this, but this is this one that I'm always doodling different things in. Right? So markers, and it has a nice paper surface to it, but it's a very different feel. It's more of a hotter press because the paper's smoother than this is. And then I've got this crazy cat, and I've done things in here like, let me see, at least there's the almonds story that I did. So that's pen, yellow paint marker, white ink. I think that's it. So, you know, but it's kind of cool because it's got this tan colored paper, you know, and we can try different, I still do the same sort of process in these things, drawing over top of other things, using different approaches to stuff, whatever it is. But we can find different things in different sketchbooks that affords us learning opportunities, right? And like this is ink, blue paint marker. So it's like a purple, two different purple inks, like a light pink ink, pens, sorry. And then like a white ink filling in those spaces, and then a little blue paint marker in there. Just trying stuff out, right? Just some kids drew my book for me. Pens, right? This is a page. I jelly plated these pages, and then all that came out was the letters, and then I painted on top of that, you know, a page about the Cydonia complex on Mars and how people see a face in Mars, and it's, you know, whether it is or is not, you know, people are going to see different kinds of faces in the first place, right? So no, I don't have a favorite kind of sketchbook. I'm always trying different things on different books, and you know, but there's a similarity in my approach to the different books that I use. It's just sort of, and then I've got another sketchbook that's in that size, but it's just white paper, and I have the larger spiral ring sketchbook, and the paper is much more white. It's much brighter, and then this is kind of a little bit of a yellow feel to it, you know. The paper, or the sketchbook, sketchbooks are sketchbooks. You're going to have sketchbooks that feel good to you and sketchbooks that don't. You're going to have sketchbooks that you need to set up on a surface because they're holy coly, you know, gigantic. I've got a sketch pad over there that's 2 feet by 3 feet because of a project that I'm working on for somebody. That's a hard one to lug around and do quick little doodles with. But it's effective for putting together those larger drawings for those specific projects. So I appreciate that question. It's a fun question because, you know, there are people that do specifically want to use certain sketchbooks more than any others. And my friend Artie, who gave me that sketchbook, I think he's ordered himself about 20 different versions of that book, multiple copies of sizes, and because he loves that book. He feels it's everything he wanted in the sketchbook. And so the right feeling, the right density of the, like, there's, you know, some textbooks have hard shells to them, other ones are very floppy. It's about what you find comfortable. And it'll, you know, sometimes it takes a couple of swings at that hammer. Oh, I have another sketchbook that's just black paper. Yeah. But again, they're for making messes in. They're for learning. they're not, sketchbooks are not, there are people that their whole sketchbook is every page, beautiful drawing. Nothing on the back, beautiful drawing. Nothing on the back, beautiful drawing. Nothing wrong with that. That's their vibe. But that's not a roughing, like that's not a sketchbook for idea generation. Other people call them journals. It's the same thing. So that paper is so yummy in that book, so I understand the 20. You know, it's, you find something that, like you say, is yummy, or like you say, it's just, I'm comfortable with this. I'm comfortable with the size. I'm comfortable with the feels. I'm comfortable with how I can put marks down on it and they work for me, or I can use different tools on it. But allow yourself to reach into a box and grab 3 random things. I just scooped 3 things. So, and now you have to work with this. You're going to do some kind of composition, like with this. And whether it's different parts of a composition or an actual, this specific thing is me trying to draw this street scene, you know, well, just play with this. And you're going to do things in that workup, in that sketching, that you're going to see something that you're going to carry over into maybe a more finished response to that on another piece of paper or a canvas or a digital drawing or whatever it is. But in the process of doing like a sketch of a street scene or something like that, what you might get is the possibility of finding other little other little aspects of it. Let me see. I'm gonna pull up random thing and just write. I'm typing in street. There we go. So, and so I've got my little. I use thumbnails is what I use for my resource material. So I've got some thumbnails. Now, if I'm going to thumbnail, right, because I want to get a grasp of some street scenes for a project that I'm working on, this isn't really going to show up well. You, what's your name? Larry. Okay, Larry. All right, so if I'm going to allow myself to explore and to experiment, and I want to try to work out, is that turning out well? Maybe I'll zoom instead, make it a little easier to see. Maybe we'll put the zoom over where I'm actually drawing. Okay, so I can try to do an elaborate drawing of this street scene, or I can allow myself the exploration of it. You know, whether you put a panel around it or not, I know that the street that I'm trying to draw is going to go down tall buildings. It's a big city street where you've got all these buildings and all these things that are happening. But what this simple, scratchy business of perspective lines is telling me is things that I can implement into another drawing. Like, it's telling me about the different shapes and the different forms and light, like the contrasting lights and things like that, and how this gives me some sort of insight into what could possibly be a street scene I'm looking at, right? But maybe it doesn't work. So if you have that second tool, you can do things like I said, you know, let me just try these. It's not going to work because it's a fountain pen I drew with and the ink isn't, so it's going to smudge. But so I'm drawing in these volumes here in the foreground to separate them from this background, right? And if I have a second, yeah, I'll use this. So, and then I can come in and I can put in this second value to sort of make it feel like it's moving distantly. Okay, so I've learned some things about the perspective of said street scene, but other things that I can try that I might learn other things from is to warp a perspective. Like if I want to draw these lines as though the objects are moving off into the distance and receding as they go. So if I look at the street scene like that, then I can draw things coming towards, and they're going to get larger as they come, and things, of course, driving away, and I got to try to figure out those perspectives. So, but what I'm learning here is just another interesting way to do this, but trying to put a little dynamic tension into it, right? And so that's what a sketchbook is for us. It's not just, doodling people and nonsensical things, but we can learn things about contrasting light, like heavy shadows, in order to put some emotion into a character, or put a sense of dread into this person here who's coming out of the darkness. Spooky, spooky, look at me. And that's like a lot of this business that I was talking about earlier, with trying to learn about how that light works on the body from a specific source or a specific direction, like up here is where I chose for all of these. Objects, doodly-doos, robots, right? Just, sometimes it's fun just to draw a street sign. And then later on, as you're working on a composition, what's the street sign look like? Well, you did one. Remember? So, any objective that we give ourselves, your sketchbook is yours, and it's completely up to you how you go about doing it, and how you concern yourself about whether you share this with other people or not. So this is, I'm going to do a whole bunch of lines like this, alright? And we're going to do a bunch of buildings. Are you going to work for me properly, pen? There we go. So we're going to do a bunch of geometric shapes. Everything can be broken down into this, this, and this. So we're going to do a whole bunch of geometric shapes, and we're going to pile these guys up, and we're going to make some complicated buildings, and we're going to draw this city view as it goes off. And then here in the foreground we'll have our building with all of the windows that we're close to, and then the realization is, as the windows get closer to us, they get a little bit bigger. Now this is a little warped, but that's okay. It's my sketchbook. Who cares? So this building is far closer to us than a lot of this, silly business. So then we can put in order to make logic for ourselves, we can put in a street curve over here. This is the other side of a street. So now we can push those buildings back farther. But in that exploration, in that, Miss Linda, you still with me? This is April. There we go. But in this exploration, it's not pretty. It's not perfect. I haven't used a ruler. I have a fly flying around in my studio. It's really annoying me. Corbin caught a fly the other day. I have a little tiny hole that got ripped in the screen by one of the cats, and a couple of flies that got in there. So I got to deal with that today. Corbin caught one the other day. He was really proud of himself. It was kind of cute. So, okay, so here's this perspective that we've really pushed in our image, and whether we have let's say a box, a garbage or a mailbox over here, or whatever, post box, whatever it is, and you can put a street light, let's say, that's over here on this side of the street, and it just sort of gives us a sense of logic as we're drawing our image. But what we're learning is a lot of these little bits of information as this all recedes here, and now we've created this dynamic shot that is a little more character to it than this guy. There's nothing wrong with this guy, but we're playing and developing it further, right? So you can do the same thing and change the setting. And so start thinking about a bridge, and so now our setting is a bridge over this water, and then you can put in some of those those forms, those support structures, which are really fun. We are hearing pens talk and seeing flying objects. Did you forget your morning medicine? You guys. So, you know, as we're drawing in the structure, for here, we're thinking about what a bridge looks like, right? Talking to, you know, close your eyes, talking back to what I spoke to earlier. Think about what a bridge, the structure of a bridge and how it's put together and how those forms work. And then you can come in, if you keep negative agent, like this is what I call it anyways. If you keep something like a Posca pen or a jelly roll pen, so that you can come into your picture and go over certain parts of it to basically take those parts out and put some light back over them to give a sense of dimension to your drawing, that can work for you. If you're like, oh, it's all dark and looks flat, well, try that, you know. But having learned something from this, we can now jump over to this image, and that tells us a little more about making this a little more dramatic bridge drawing than us, you know, taking this initial image that we picked up and drawing our bridge like so, because, you know, that, whether we've got, you know, the road coming in or out of it, and we draw a bank, however successfully we draw a bank, we draw the river over here, however successfully that we draw that, excuse me, this is more interesting. And this is harder to tell that it's a bridge because we don't have this. What? Just sit down. Corbin just announced he's in the room. So it's playing, and it's picking up on things, and all of these things that we were scribbling, and all these things that we're assessing as we go along about structures, and in this case structures and scenes, we can use later. You know, there's nothing to say that you can't open your sketchbook. I have a couple of here I got a couple of scenes that I drew on a previous page, you know, that I can implement these into a composition. This crazy forced perspective here, or these rooftops that have more character because of the shadow, the contrast and the lighting. Stop! You're knocking everything over. Sorry. Yo, what's up in the hood? Hey, Robert, how you doing? Doug says, back to that little yellow thumbnail. Neat how you drew the negative space first rather than the objects. Was the scene imagined first, or were you tracing the imagination? Are you talking in reference to this one? This one here? Or were you talking to another page, like... Okay, yeah, so this one here, okay. Well, if that's another way that we can approach stuff, right? Is that we can, let's do another scene. Let's do, let me think, have I got any more here that's got any range to it? Okay, so let's draw, am I in camera? Yep. So we'll draw, here's some big buildings that we know are in the city, and we're gonna put these volumes like so. And then we'll put one in the foreground. Okay? And so what we're going to have to make from this, is some kind of structural composition, right? Now I'm trapped, never trapped. Okay, so if we draw in these shapes and these structures into this now, and so we put in the different shapes and the different geometric forms, and we build those down and develop them move them across. We can have another building that's moving this way. Here, here's another one in the foreground. So we've got these shapes laid out for us. And having those shapes laid out for us takes away too much thinking. Because we do that. We do that to ourselves more than anything else. But there's this basic geometric buildup of a perspective that we can then turn into a city with little boxes, little windows, you know. But it shortens the thinking on it, because you know, you're trying to craft, well, how's the shapes and how's the boxes and how's the corners? If you just throw down a bunch of volume with a marker and then try to look inside of that for some structure, like there's no yellow right there. But at that point, I'm just running across with this geometric shape here, and there's that wall. You know, when you flick through just now, there was a neon green building and bright yellow Batterman. I'm having LSD flashbacks from the 60s. I wasn't even born then. You are welcome. Free drugs. I guess, I don't know. That's funny. All right, peace and love. Woodstock, yeah. So this sort of falls on suit like yesterday, having, you know, the suggestion be a giant man playing with his Hot Wheels and ducks in the bathroom. And so how do we quickly define a bathroom? And then we can play with the dimension of it. He's a giant man. So rather than drawing, you know, somebody the size of ourselves in the bathtub, we're going to draw a giant version of somebody, twice the size, let's say. So, but getting the gist of the bathroom and thinking about that, and I approached it in the most simple way that I've laid out here for these street scenes, by just doing this receding perspective, 1 point perspective, everybody back to the same dot. Whatever you're doing, stop it. So, you know, there's different approaches that we can make to it, and it's about finding whatever you've got some comfort in. I showed putting down this solid object marks with the pen, and then taking a Posca pen and pulling out the light areas on the same objects and giving it a little more dimension. You know, we've talked about building it up from shapes and lines, and trying to, we've learned, here's our first approach, which we threw the yellow on to give it some body, and then we tried to make it a little more energetic. Oh, well, I like the whole warp perspective, let's try that a little more on a side view of the street, and then, oh yeah, we could do a bridge that way. Far more interesting than this boring bridge. But now at that point, you start to get a real sense for all these different ways that we can talk about streets, and we can talk about street scenes in this specific instance. But yeah, those are awesome questions. I think it all tends to flow organically once you're in that zone, once you're in that space, and different tools will give you different results. This is a chisel tip, this pen, or this water-based marker. It has a chisel tip at one end and then a typical marker tip at the other. This Faber-Castell is a brush tip, right? So the chisel tip is going to have, how you doing, Maritza? Welcome aboard. The chisel tip is going to have some shapes that are far more boxy because of, you know, because of the shape of the chisel, right? And then it just becomes a case of how we apply that, and, you know, the way that we put that to use for us, and give ourselves some things in order to build up from. It seems random. Whoops. I went and grabbed the other end thinking I had the marker at the butt end of the pen. So it seems just like a random smattering of shapes, but what we can pull out of that, you know, is little geometric lines and interesting, complicated bits of business, putting together the randomness, of a city skyline. And it was just one silly little marker that gives us all this. Because if this is a shot in the background, if this is a background scene, how complex does the information have to be? Like, how much do we have to sell this city skyline? So, yeah, allow yourself this smattering of different tools that you can then take and turn into whatever else. And if they work in conjunction with one another, like these different yellows and oranges here, that's great, but they don't necessarily have to. We've got fountain pen here, we've got ballpoint pen here, a couple of different kinds of markers. It's just exploration, it's just sketching. And, on the same page, you're doing all this geometric stuff. You can draw, a rather cartoony guy who's strutting his business down the street. Got his leg kicked out. Big gigantic head. But now you've got a sense of your street logic, so you can draw. You can draw the space around him. Oh, I'm going to pick up from what I figured out here. I'm going to have him walking past. He's going to walk right into this garbage bin. He's going to have to go around this post that I've using the wrong side of my pen. Maybe it's just a sucky pen. Hi, Chris. Welcome aboard. Yeah, it's a random time for me today. I know, but I've got some things I've got to get going to do this afternoon. Here's this poll. Okay, city polls. It's random. Okay, so if you've got, here's a carpenter's trick, by the way. If you put your fingers along the side of your book, you don't need a ruler. Anyways, so a telephone pole or a pole in a city, think about lights. Think about the lights as they're arranged on that pole and the different parts. There's the button to press for you to go that way, right? Here's the button to press for you to go, this way. There's different ways that we can look at signs, and we can look at the different. It's not signs. What are the traffic or cross don't walk displays, whatever they're called, and we'll put. So think about how those work, right? So as you're drawing, got the little man inside. So as you're sketching this out, you want to figure out objects like this and populate your drawings with those, and so it's going to feel a little bit more like a real pole in a city when you put that in your drawing. Does the carpenter's trick work with circles with traditional paper shapes? No, that's Chris is in class. Oh, super cool. Hi everybody. So you can, this is a quick and dirty way to put a frame around your drawing as you're working in a book, and as long as you keep that gauge, I guess it would be, or that setting. But you can do, if you just adjust where the width of the space that you're allowing, you can get all these different parallel lines. And you could even make a grid pattern with the thing if you're so elaborate, but just a little trick. It's how you, it's a quick way to mark things. It's a quick way to mark wood. So if you're going to do a cut, you've got to take off like 3 inches. You just run that. Anyhow, so all these different things that we're learning along the way, like these constructs here, or this bridge, I mean, you can have some of that structural development in the background behind your guy, as though it's some sort of support for the building that he's walking in front of. And these little bits of business just sort of, build up our backgrounds, build up our cities and our scenes, and make things a little more interesting. Give it a little dimension, give it a little form. Yeah. So, point is, sketchbooks, you gotta play. You gotta play. Those are the rules. That's the rules. Yeah, I don't know. With doing stuff like this, I find that it helps me to think outside of the corners. Like boxing yourself in, right? If you feel boxed in on a composition, if you feel, see you later, Chris, thanks for stopping in. If you feel that in the drawing of something, I'm not entirely sure how to, let's say you got a composition where you have a guy running forward, just grab your sketchbook, and you're not worried about being precious with it. You're just going to grab a mark making tool, and that's a little easier to see, isn't it? And you're going to draw a bunch of people running, right? You're going to have this guy's leg right up there. Legs up when you're running. And so you're going to try different ways in order to represent somebody running towards the frame, or I'm not happy with that leg, I'm going to change it up like this. That whatever it is, just make a mess. Maybe I want to have him running sideways, right? And have that arm pumping up in front of him, and give him a really gangly kind of a run, whatever it is. But you're using this as this is just another tool. It's not okay. So the page that I posted today, this is the rough source of it, and yet by posting that today, despite the more elaborateness of other pages that I'll show, by posting this today, I'm trying to just sort of get across that this is just as valid in that creative process for folks. Oftentimes I want to have the finished drawings. Oh yeah. Okay, great, that's great. But don't deny yourself the exploration, by always worrying about the end result. Hi, Tori, welcome aboard. Like we added elements in this composition as we went. We put the wallets in, we put the keys in, because of the culmination of the story. We wanted to say, okay, he often soaks his wallet and loses his keys, because we had to figure out that key element in the suggestion. And so it let us go back through we just not only had his clothes soaked on the floor, but we put his identification in his wallet on the floor as well. So even in this page that we laid out, we still kept throwing more things into the more ingredients into the soup. Robert says, I have to say I feel like I have learned a great deal about creativity and drawing in general watching these YouTubes, even some carpentry tips, which is weird because, quite frankly, I signed the gardening masterclass is what you signed up for. There you go. So, yeah, I don't know if people keep a sketchbook or people keep some sort of source for a file in their tablet program or whatever it is, or if it's just something to consider for a moment. But there is a warm-up process that a lot of people will take as well, where they'll have either scraps of paper, something they tried to print out but their ink was half dead so it didn't turn out, and they'll just save those pieces of paper, and they'll just draw circles. They'll just draw one circle after another until they get into a rhythm where they're feeling comfortable about the shape of their circles, and that'll be their process before they start working, and that's great. You know, if that works for you, to help you get cooking, you know, so that when you sit down to start, you know, drawing your Hot Wheels cars or whatever it is that somebody's trying to work on, it's entirely relying on you having circular wheel shapes. You've loosened yourself up. You know, there's this sort of muscle memory that you're igniting in your hands about that. Hey, no knowledge is bad, right? Even if all I want to do is grow eggplants and carrots. Knowledge is bad. No, I'm just being silly. Knowledge is good. Good. Yes. So when you start drawing, let's say a car, now that you've been doing all these sort of circular shapes, you know, you might have drawn a car, pardon me, as this very boxy, you know, rectangular foundation that you put, you know, it's very, very boxy car, right? And but you get those wheels figured out for the side. Pardon me, I'm gonna take a drink. But if you're doing all these circular things, it might inspire in you to put a little bit more organic shape on your car, and so that as you're drawing your car, you're thinking about the smooth lines, and you're putting these rounded edges on your car now, and skipping over this step, okay, and moving closer to the finish of it, where of course there's more rounded corners and edges and more geometric applications to the design of vehicles, so that they can ergonomically move through the air, you know. And when you start getting into that, and you allow yourself the lesson learned from here and the lesson learned from here, it just sort of opens it up for you. Corbin's back. I'm bored. I require sustenance immediately. So then, see, told you. Just sit on your spot. We're not done. Been doing the show at a weird time. So you start changing the shape of your car. It's really a warped perspective. So you start changing the shape of your drawings and the objects that you're making, and give them just a little bit more realistic style to them than having a city full of boxy cars. Although there is something fun to that, by the way. Stylistically, there is something fun to drawing everything so that it looks like really simplified shapes, really boxy, you know, objects in the city, and you know, everything has three basic geometric properties, and that's circle, you know, square, triangle, and everything is just, you know, it'd be a place where you bump into stuff a lot because there'd always be angled edges sticking out everywhere. But that's kind of funny, you know. That's kind of funny. It's like I don't know if people did any carving when they were a kid. There was a thing called Cub Carves in Boy Scouts, where they would give you a block of wood and have you be careful, but use some different tools in order to carve it into a car. And then, you know, with adult supervision, and then of course that adult would drill a hole through it, and you put a little stick of metal through there and attach some wheels on either side of it, and you know, you do that at the front and the back, and then you've made what's called a cup car. And then they'd have races. If you do this square boxy car, it's not going to win the races, because that flat front edge is going to impede the movement of the car because of the wind. But when you figure out how to round that off so that the airflow goes over it, which leads to a lot of Cub cars, by the way, looking like this with a wedge shape, because they figured out the extreme answer to that you know, that flow of air moving over top of it. But yeah, just you know, nip off those little corners there. Round those out. Maybe missing that. Yeah, you can carve the rounder shapes out of the box and then add to the block. Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, and this is just a developmental thing over time, and it's the sort of thing that we can experiment in our sketchy books, right? But yeah, there's so many tidbits that we can spend all kinds of different ways to draw mailboxes. You can spend all kinds of different ways to here's a tractor. Let me see if I'll move it to the zoom so that it might be a little bit clearer. Yeah, so here's a tractor that is clearly not a contemporary tractor. It's hovering off the ground, and you know, I've taken some real liberties to it, but it's inherently a basic tractor, right? We've started with our understanding of a tractor, and then taken liberties from there. So, you know, it just helps to let your imagination fly. This is my anti-Superman story. Another aliens landed in the backfield. Yeah. Here are just, whoops, clicking things. Here are just streetcar cables. That's all this is me looking at images that have streetcars in them. And I think the complexity of the cables at the top of those things are so cool. Does this have any rhyme or reason to it other than what it's doing for me in my head? If somebody else looks at this, are they going to have any clue of what that is? Probably not. But love this. I just love this, and you know, pistons and little components. And how can I use those to make space tractor? You know, how can I figure out modular arms in order to incorporate those, whether it's a robot or you know, space thing, or if it's just some sort of exotic piping of some kind. It's just putting shapes together and allowing ourselves to put these different variations of shape and form together. It's just playing, you know. But what I'll pick up from that is some knowledge and some understanding of how to go about doing this. So when that comes up, I got an idea. Speaking of ideas, this guy had a really good one. Light bulb head, big arm. There's a Ibis, I think it is, whatever that is. David sees yellow people. It's the drugs, David. It's all the drugs from the hippiedom, the Woodstock. Okay, so this is sort of what I wanted to walk through today. You know, is experimenting and exploring different possibilities and avenues in your sketchbooks. There we go. And trying different stuff out. You know, so hopefully that helped somebody, I guess, is the sort of direction I'm trying to go in here. Allow yourself to figure out different things. Allow yourself to make lots of mistakes and spend a couple of sheets of paper drawing rubber stamps. If you can do it in a coalesced state, like if you can do it in some place where those things are accessible together without you having to go through stacks of paper that are getting lost and you're not sure where you're putting things, if you put them all in one spot. I know that in my approach, I tend to draw over top of other things. It's not hard to look through this object to see this. It's not hard to look through the spaceship to see the hand. It might take a moment, but you know, I can see the difference between this form and that form, right? Like, it's just, April says, hey, I'll gotta go to work. Everybody okay today? There we go. Are you at work now, April? Yeah, just allow yourself to draw over top of other things if you feel so inspired, but just play. Have fun. Draw all the things that you think are too complicated to draw. make up things. You might have better solutions of what a toaster should look like, and somebody goes, "That's a cool toaster." You win. But yeah, lots and lots and lots. And like I said before, and this again, I'm not trying to. This isn't part of promoting the book, but because I've been doing lots of that, and this is me sketching and taking a break from that. But this is what I'm trying to do with all the different approaches to telling stories. There's the elements page that I showed you, the original art for that. Oh, you've been at work for a few hours. Oh my gosh. You know, so that's why I'm trying to example in the book with all the different pages that I chose is the different materials. That's why I show the original art on the one side, so that I can show the original materials that I'm trying to tell stories, different stories in each page. Pencil crayon, dipping ink, you know, ink wash, color erase pen or pencil, I'm sorry, ballpoint pen. This is drawing in white on black. So, yeah, you know, everything under the sun counts. Everything's you can explore everything out there, and this is a great place to learn all of that. Just April says, "I can't wait. I should ship my book. You're gonna have so much fun with it." Excellent. Yeah, I appreciate you picking one up. The smaller one seems like a gingerbread man. Oh, on here? On this? What, Corbin? Yeah, I know. So, I'm here. Yeah, this is me trying to draw different mediums, different versions of me, all at work in the studio. Look at this little guy sitting on the desk. Hey, little guy. Yeah. Okay. I think that's about it for me today, folks. I really appreciate people coming and hanging out. This is super fun. I know that I wasn't necessarily working on a page. I have a page to post for tomorrow. It's the one that I had intended to post for Monday from Friday, but I posted another one that I hadn't had a chance to get out before. So, yep. Corbin wants to say hi. There you go. You saying hi? There you are. You happy? Hey, what's up, ladies? How's everybody doing? The cat's got a deep voice. Okay. I'll be back tomorrow, 2 p.m. EST. And I look forward to if anybody ever wants to share any of their sketching stuff and that. I always love seeing that, you know. But I look forward to the opportunity, hopefully, that it's okay to scribble with whatever, and if anybody wants to try that from this, so that's great. April's going to email me. Thanks, Christopher. Take care. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, that's about it for me. For now, I got to get myself ready to go off to an appointment. But thank you very much, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now. What are you doing?